Hello everyone, in this particular video what I want to do is complete this tutorial from Microsoft official documentation, which is about connecting virtual networks with virtual network peering using the Azure portal. Now this is fairly simple lab and I have really done it multiple other times as part of AZ300, AZ400 official Git lab series. So if you uh, come over here and just let's do a blackboard. So what we are going to do is, say you have one virtual network in here, okay, and you have some resources that you have deployed. So you have a VM there, multiple VMs, okay, and this is like the whole big Azure, and so this is another, you have another virtual network, okay. In the same region you have another virtual network and you have some other VM that are deployed in here, and this is another virtual network. And since these are two different virtual networks, although they're in the same region, unless you connect with each other, you won't be able, these VMs won't be able to talk to this set of VMs, okay. So the easiest way to allow communication is called VNet peering. There are other ways that you can do it, but VNet peering uses Microsoft's backbone, and very easily you will be able to connect this virtual network with the other virtual network, and this is simply called the VNet peering. Now if you have your virtual network deployed in a different region altogether, okay, here is some virtual machine, and excuse my drawing, and if you wanted to connect your virtual network to that virtual network that is in the other region, process is exactly the same. So once you learn this, you will be able to do this peering as well, and it's just called global, okay, global VNet peering. This is just regular VNet peering, and if it's another region, it's global VNet peering. But in reality, there is no difference. Exactly the way you would configure your VNet peering between these two VNet, you will do the exact same thing to connect this one and this one as well. Okay, so let's now go to the lab and see what do we need to. This lab shouldn't be too long to complete, okay. So looks like we have 4 major tasks: create 2 virtual networks, and of course we need to create the peering, so we at least need 2 networks, and connect 2 network using the VNet peering, so we can do that. Deploy a virtual machine into each virtual network. This you can do even before you do the peering, or you can do it after, and then make sure the communication is happening between the VMs, okay. So all you need is your Azure subscription. If you don't have one, just go ahead and sign up for a free account, and you should be able to get started with this lab. So here all I need to do, I'm going to follow the naming convention and create one network in East-US, and we'll stick to 10.0.0.0.16 address space, and the subnet name would be 1. So let's get started over here. I'm just gonna search for virtual networks, okay. So once I get that one, I can create a new instance of the virtual network. Just click yes. I'm gonna create a new resource group called my resource group. In this resource group, my first virtual network name is gonna be the my virtual network 1. So we're gonna create that one, and we're gonna keep it in East US, okay, and IP address 10.0.0.0/16. That address space is great. It's got 65,536 addresses, and here is my subnet, and I'm going to change the name of the subnet to match the subnet they want us to create, and that is, where is my subnet? Subnet name is subnet 1, okay. So now we are consistent with the documentation, and make sure there is no space or you will see the red warning. And then security, we are not changing any default parameters, tags we are not adding at this moment, and just hit create once the validation is successful. For the other one, we are going to deploy that in it's not saying in which region, so I'm thinking I'm going to deploy this in the same region. I'm going to use the East US, and we're gonna use a different address space. So let's just deploy another virtual network. So come over here, you can just go to the resource if you like and take a look at what you have. This is the one that got deployed. Here is my subnet 1. Let's go to the overview, or let's go back over here. And since we deployed the virtual network, it will show up as your recently accessed services. You can directly click on this icon and then click on the add button one more time, and we're going to choose the resource group that we have created in the previous deployment. We're going to call this one my virtual network 2. Keep the East US location, but this time 10.100. That's what Azure is suggesting by default, and here I have that, so I'm okay with that. I'm just gonna call it subnet 2, that default. I'm gonna change to subnet 2 and save. And again, security, don't need anything to do. Review, create, validation, pass. So I'm just gonna do create. So now we have what we have done. Go back to our drawing board. That's the worst drawing board ever, so let's create a little bit better drawing board. So we have created one. Okay, this is I'm just gonna call it S or V1 or VNet1, VNet1, and we have also created another one. Okay, VNet2. Okay, I'm just gonna call it VNet2. Both of them are deployed in US East region. Okay, now here I have a subnet called subnet 1, right? Subnet 1, and here in VNet 2 I have a subnet called subnet 2. So that's how far we have done so far. So let's go back, and again you can go to the resources, verify that your subnet 2 is properly available here. So everything looks good. So then now the next thing we can do is peer the virtual networks. Okay, now at this time, if you deploy one virtual machine in here, okay, and here, these two virtual machines, they will not be able to talk to each other using their private IP address. Okay, because they are completely separate, they're isolated environment. So we need to create something called a peering. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. So here, come back over here. Let's go back to our resource group, and we want to work with the first network that we created, my virtual network 1. And over here, it's pretty distinct. You have a peering blade right here. You just click on it, and it should be empty. There shouldn't be any peering at the moment. It may take a little bit of time to load. It looks like it's loading. If it doesn't load, sometimes I just refresh, and hopefully that will load up the page. Let's give it a second. My virtual network 1. Come on. Now let's go back. Review what we need to do. So we're gonna add a peering, and once the peering is done, once you do the peering from the first virtual network, you actually also configure the peering from the other network to your network as well. So you don't need to go to the other network and create the peering to this network again. So one time, and this networking will show up in both places, and I'll show you that. Okay, we are still here. Let's hope that, yeah, so that's add button is now here. So now we can click on the add to start network peering, which where all of our traffic is going to be within the Azure. So name of the peering, and from virtual network. So usually the naming convention that you'll use, people would use is my. Okay, let's actually see if they are saying any convention first and stick to that one. Here, my virtual network 1 to my virtual network 2 when the page first loads. Okay, so this is what I was gonna say anyway. Uh-oh, what happened again? Okay, so here, and if this happens, slide your bar, and here, okay, so this is going to be my virtual network 1 to you have a dash here to my virtual network 2. Virtual network deployment model, you use resource manager for most cases unless you have very specific reason to use the classic model. And then what virtual network do you want to connect to? Definitely it's the virtual network 2, and look at that, it says cannot be peered virtual network 1. That means, and that makes sense, right? Because I'm trying to connect to peering from this network only, so we can only choose this one. And the name, you put this, and I'm going to reverse the name. So this time, name of virtual network 2 to virtual network 1. Here is the reverse peering that's it's also going to configure. So I'm going to make it 2 and I'm going to make it 1. Okay, now here, let's see, the name must begin with a letter N. Okay, here is space, I have to get rid of the space, and now everything looks good. Now here, allow virtual network access from virtual network 1 to virtual network 2. So that's you are going to enable. So this virtual network 1 will be able to access virtual network 2, and from 2 to 1 you're also enabling this too. Now here the two more options there. Configure forward traffic setting. You don't need this for this particular setting, and there are special cases where you would need that, but for now I don't really need them. And let me just verify that's what they're suggesting in here as well. They have not even said anything about those two settings, so we should be good. So we'll come back and talk about this in a later video about this, how you use it. But if you look at the information icon here, this setting allows forwarded traffic from virtual network 2, traffic not originating from inside virtual network 2 into virtual network 1. And then this one, similar kind of text. This setting allows forwarded traffic from virtual network 1 that is not originating from inside virtual network 1 into virtual network 2. Okay, for now I don't need any of these settings. I'm just gonna say okay, and the peering doesn't take, and see what happened. It's actually two different notification icon showed up. So one is creating networking between 1 to 2, and another is creating 2 to 1, and the 2 to 1 is not, you won't be able to see it from my virtual network 1. For to if you want to look at that, you gotta go to the other network. So go back to the resource group, go to network 2, and go to your peering again over here, and when it shows up, I'm gonna go back to another blade and come back to that one, and there we go. So the other one is also available. So just make sure that your peering status is connected, and then you're good. So the next thing we need to do is pretty simple. Now we'll just create a couple of virtual machines, and we are going to deploy them in these two networks. Okay, so let's look at my VM. Okay, we're gonna deploy to where the virtual network 1, and second VM I guess will deploy to the other VM to virtual network 2. So that's pretty simple. So now come back to your home. There are many ways to do it. I'll just search for virtual machine, so it will show up. Select that, click on add and virtual machine, and once you have selected that one, I'm gonna use the same my resource group. Virtual machine name is my VM1, East US region, no availability option, I don't need anything. And let's stick with 2016 data center to be consistent with the lab. Take a username and a secret password. Okay, then I'm going to keep the RDP port open because we want to log into this particular machine. Disk, we don't need to worry about it. Network is where we are going to choose a particular network, and my VM network. So there are two networks available. So the first VM we're going to deploy to this particular network. We only have one subnet, so that's selected by default. We're going to create a public IP, a basic network security group, and that looks all good. I'm gonna disable this boot diagnostic, so I don't need any storage account to store anything. No advanced stuff, no tags, and review create, and it's just going through the final validation. If this is successful, I can hit create, and it has now started the deployment of this particular virtual machine in that first virtual network. So what we can do, go back to home, click on virtual machine again, and start the deployment of the next virtual machine. So you don't have to wait for the first deployment to be completely done. Okay, for the next virtual machine, it's just gonna be VM2. Okay, again I'm gonna deploy to East US. I'm gonna choose Windows 2016 data center, and gonna choose student password, secret password, another very secret password, again a disk. I'm not doing anything. Networking, I need to make sure that I'm choosing virtual network 2 and not creating any new network. And as soon as you choose that one, subnet 2 is the only subnet under this particular network that is automatically chosen. Public IP, create new, just say create new, and just say okay. So it will create a public IP for us. Basic NIC, everything else looks good. Management, again I'm going to disable the boot diagnostic, so I do not need any storage account. Advanced is fine. Okay, the last thing I want to take a look at this one more time. Resource group is the problem, so I need to use the right resource group for the deployment. And just gonna go through it one more time real quick. No, again this one we want to deploy to virtual network 2. Since we didn't choose the right resource group, it automatically defaulted to some weird options, so I'm just making sure that I have the right option here, and I think I do. At this time, its validation is successful. You can quickly look at virtual machine name is what we wanted. Make sure our virtual network is the second network, subnet 2, second virtual IP, everything looks good. So just hit create. So at this time, let's come back to our Blackboard. So here we have deployed VM1, and here we are deploying VM2. So in general case, if you have deployed this and if you do not have a peering, then you will not be able to talk to this virtual machine. Like you cannot ping and you use that private IP address from here to there, no way. But since we have our peering enabled, we should be able to ping from this machine to that one and that machine to that one flawlessly. One thing we have to do, Windows machines, they typically do not enable the ping utility, or they don't allow ping by default. So we have to go and open up our PowerShell and allow the ping so that we can do some testing. Okay, so let's go back to our lab over here, and this is the one what we're talking about. We'll go to one of the machines. I'm pretty sure the first one should have been deployed by now. So let's just go to the go to the resource group and see what is going on. And it looks like the east region may be a little slow even today. I had some problem a couple days back. Okay, so it's running, so I'm going to copy that one. So there are many ways to do it. Usually if you're using Windows, you click on connect and get the RDP file and log in that way. I have a Remina client that I use within Ubuntu. I'm just going to click the IP address in here and accept the certificate and use my username and password to log into this machine. And look at that, it's logging in. While this is going on, I think the other machine deployment is also done. So let's get the other machine. Okay, that's the public IP address from there again. Go to my Remna and paste the IP address of the other machine and do the same thing, log into that one. And okay, so in this one, network, yeah, go ahead and say yes. What we would do, I'm going to expand this one a little bit, open up my PowerShell. Okay, and then we need to enable our ping utility. So I'm going to copy this command from here. It's a pretty simple command. New net firewall rule, display name is allow ICMP in and protocol ICMP v4. I'm going to hit enter, and that will open up ping request, and it will respond back to ping request from other servers. Just give it a second, and while this is going on, I'm going to come to the other machine, and again I say yes. From here I'm going to say PowerShell and do the same thing pretty much. Open up the PowerShell window in this machine as well, and go back, copy the command again, come back, paste it and hit enter, and this one should be done by now. Let's go back and check that one. So that one is done. And other thing I want to do, type just the hostname command just to prove that I'm in the VM2, my VM2. And in this one, let's hit enter, and this looks like it's not done yet, so just give it a second and it should be done. There we go. And again I'm just gonna do host name. Okay, so that is my VM1. Okay, so my VM1, if I do ping my VM2, now I expect that the ping my VM2 did not work. Okay, so let's go over here, make sure my VM2 is the right host name. Okay, let's use our IP address, okay, to do this. Let's do ping. What is my IP address? So let's go over here and actually do IP config. Alright, so this one got IP address 00004, and we are still inside of our VM1. So from VM2, let's try this IP 10.00004 and hit enter and see if we are getting back replies. So it looks like we did. get the replies back. So I want to try to see if the DNS is also working. So I'm gonna try one more time my VM1 and see if I get anything back. If it does not give me anything, that tells me okay, the peering it works and it knows how to talk using the private IP address, but for the DNS to work properly you have to use something else. So DNS is still not set up. So if you, after the peering, if you want to talk to this machine, you gotta use the private IP address. Now okay, so we are still in VM2, so let's do IP config here, and this one got IP address 10.104. so now go to VM1 and hostname, this is VM1, so I can ping VM2 from here, and if you look at it, if you're using the private IP address, I'm getting the replies back just fine. So in a regular physical environment you will not be able to do that, this kind of packet transfer, this kind of peering so easily. With Azure, this you can do this kind of peering in like minutes that you have seen, and we have proven that both machines can talk to each other just fine. So that's all that we want to cover in this lab. If you're watching, I have actually covered and completed all of these labs in previous videos. I have probably last 6 or 7 videos I have been covering all of this networking, and I will cover the next 2, and then I'll create a playlist and put them all together for you to review. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and leave your valuable comments so I can improve the way I'm doing these videos. Happy learning. This is an important concept for AZ-104, 500, 300 series exam. So make sure that you understand the peering and how it works. Good luck.